So during a recent interview, Lord Zoran, New York City's favorite comment section communist, was called out for essentially putting himself down as a African American Asian on the census. Now, you may think to yourself, what's the issue with classifying yourself as an African American when you literally were born in Africa?
What's up, guys? Welcome back to my channel, Yano Show. KE, hope you are good, your friend, guys. I just want to appreciate you guys for just tuning in my channel. In case you're new here, yes, we'll say subscribing. So, guys, there in USA, we said that the election of who to be the mayor of New York City was being elected, and the vote went to Mamada, who is a citizen, or his roots are in Uganda. And we see that most of the Black Americans or the African Americans have reacted to this story, say that Muhammad is not an African American. Most of these African Americans are denying and saying that Mama should not classify himself as Black American or African American, and they have given their views about this story about Mamdan classifying himself as African American. So, here's some of these reaction of African American reacted to the story.
So during a recent interview, Lord Zoran, New York City's favorite comment section communist, was called out for essentially putting himself down as a African American Asian on the census. Now, you may think to yourself, what's the issue with classifying yourself as an African American when you literally were born in Africa and you now live in America? Well, see, here's the thing. That classification is saved for Black Americans. See how that works? So, as an Indian American, there would be another classification for you, not Native American or Indigenous American, but as an Indian man. That's your mama, that's your daddy. There's a section for you right there. Now, I would presume that the reason why you would use such classifications is because you would likely find yourself getting, I don't know, a few more opportunities than the average person for putting down the classification of both African American as well as Asian. But then again, this is just a little assumption on my side. What do we know?
Last night, Zoran Mamdani's had his victory speech, and he made some Black Americans cringe because he was talking about how New York was built by immigrants. Hold on, let me show you.
New York will remain a city of immigrants, a city built by immigrants, powered by immigrants, and as of tonight, led by an immigrant.
So there were some Black Americans that took offense to this because, Black Americans are routinely left out of the conversation when it comes to building America. And a lot of people, especially people who are immigrants and who are in the political sphere, Obama has done it before, talk about how this country was built on immigrants, and immigrants are the ones who built this country, when Black Americans are not immigrants. It's like they always are either taking us for granted or just conveniently leaving us out. So I understand that, and I feel that same way. Although with this speech, I didn't really get that. I listened to the whole speech, and while I understand the sentiment of my fellow Black Americans, I also understand what Zoran was trying to say. And before that, in the speech, he had said that he wanted to make a New York the city that could be affordable to all the Black American women who had, well, he didn't say Black American, he just said Black women, but, Black with a capital B, that had been let go from federal jobs by Trump. And he also said this.
So Donald Trump, since I know you're watching, I have 4 words for you. Turn the volume up.
He said, turn the volume up, which I have to think that he was referencing KRS-One, great Black American rapper from the 80s and 90s. So he said, turn the volume up, the devil's time is up. So I gotta think he was referencing that. And he also used hip hop a lot during the campaign. Remember when he went to the Wu-Tang concert and spoke to the Wu and, you know, Jadakiss and Styles P and Killer Mike? Like, he used Black American culture as a way to forward his campaign throughout the entire campaigns. I understand why people might be reluctant to take him on. I'm gonna be watching from New Jersey and hoping for the best.
He didn't mention African Americans because he doesn't think they exist or think they're important. That's why he didn't mention them in his speech. African Americans have been in New York since the 1600s. And as someone who is a third generation New Yorker, half of my family coming during the Great Migration in the 1940s, and the other half of my family being there since the late 1700s, we don't be there no more. We've been gutted out of our communities. We've been kicked out of our communities. We have been impoverished. Most of the people you see who are black on the street of New York are African American. They're African American. Why do you think that is? It's by design. That is by design. We can get into the whole historics of like why that is, the structural disenfranchisement of African Americans, of course, because we're owed a big motherfucking bill, and there's just feelings of if we get an actual power, not manicured power, but actual power, we're gonna get our lick back. And at this point in time, after the stunts y'all been playing with us, but to be real, like China's about to put y'all in check anyway, so I don't even think we need to do anything. But yeah, this stunt is just, they love to do this thing where they get like the bourgeois, they get like because something right now in U.S. politics, we really are trying to create some sort of relationship to India, probably for the labor force, because Latin America is resisting, as we see what's happening in Venezuela. And do you know who taught them how to do that resistance in Latin America and get their independence? Haiti. And who's really tied up in Haiti? The Clintons, right? Oh, shouldn't say that. And the Democrats. The Democrats are very tied up in maintaining the suppression of the global South. So what they do is they import the upper class from the global South and cosplay them as people of, quote unquote, people of color, a model minority, whatever. But really, they wear the skin of African Americans. They wear the history of African Americans, and then they erase them in the same breath. So that's what that is. And that's why Zora Mamdani acted the way he did and did not include them. And he was definitely going to be a part of the continued gutting of African Americans in Bed-Stuy and in Harlem. Yeah. They moved all the African Americans actually into the housing projects, but I have a feeling that the housing projects are about to be fully Latin American, fully Hispanic right now. So my little bit of advice for the Hispanic community, you're next. So they're going to go after the Puerto Ricans and the Dominicans next. Yeah. I'm sorry about that. Like, it's just going to happen. To make way, I mean, I wouldn't be shocked that underneath Zora Mamdani, they make way for artist housing in the housing projects, or they renovate the housing projects for artist housing, which then there's gonna be white people living in the projects soon. Just be prepared for it. But yeah, I'm just straight up pissed. Because also there's a layer of this where people are like, African Americans are dumb. A lot of people think African Americans are dumb, and they think African Americans don't know what is going on. That's why African Americans have to do this extreme kind of performance of being bourgeois and being intelligent and being so well read and academic, because people inherently think we don't know what the fuck happened to us. So we have to theorize our degradation. That is African American studies. That is any sort of humanities theory in relationship to the plight of African Americans. That is Afro-pessimism. We have to theorize our degra motherfuckation to be considered a breathing human being.
Election day. Did you vote for Mamdani?
Yeah, I did.
No, we can't vote for Mamdani.
I know we can't.
We're in Carolina, but but yeah, it is election day. I hope that Mamdani wins. Hopefully,
why do you want
he gets the
Mamdani to
W?
win?
Because it's about progressivism. All right, like we've tried the Democrats, we tried the Republicans. Notice how I pointed over here because he's a Republican. No, I'm just kidding. We've tried all these different things. We have to try something new.
Mamdani's independent?
The time is up. He's a progressive.
Oh, that's not considered independent. That's just progressive.
I think he's registered Democrat, but he's a progressive. So
Isn't Cuomo's registered
he's somebody.
Democrat too, though, right?
He's somebody who went on, who studied under Bernie. I mean, it was him and AOC that were on Bernie's campaign, and so like to me, that's the way to go. That's the future of America.
So you curious to see?
So,
you want to see a new regime? You want to see them?
I definitely
you
do.
think he can change things and shake things up?
I think so for sure. I think he's going to be the one to change.
Hey, what
things.
about that other dude? He's a
Curtis Sliwa. See, I told you he was
What's
voting
his
for the
name is-
Republicans.
what's his name is Sliwa?
Sliwa.
Sliwa, yeah.
Yeah.
You know he was a guardian angel, right?
I don't know what that means.
You know, guardian angel. Okay, he doesn't know what this means. Guardian Angel was the neighborhood went out and protect the community at nighttime on the subways of New York, and they would wear these berets.
Okay.
And
that's why he's wearing that stuff.
Yeah.
I didn't know if he was a comrade.
No. I think former Guardian Angel, and he said he lived in all boroughs. He's definitely diehard New York. Okay. And they went out in the communities with no weapons. So he's I don't know. I don't know how the people resonate with him. I mean, I have no idea. Yeah. But it'll be interesting to see.
We'll see. Hopefully, Mamdani gets it tonight. I'll come on tonight.
But what do you think gonna happen? Because Trump is backing Cuomo.
I mean, well, I don't know. Obama backed my boy Mamdani.
He said some good things about him, but
yeah.
We'll see.
Who built New York City? New York's new mayor, Zoran Mamdani. I probably butchered it, so I apologize. I was with his speech and everything he had going all the way up until he said New York City was built by immigrants, powered by immigrants, and now ran by immigrant, whatever the hell. Get that part, but it was not built by immigrants. It was built by enslaved Black Americans. Let's not erase history. And this be my issue sometimes when immigrants get in power. It's like y'all want to erase the history and the foundation of America, and it kind of annoys me sometimes because it's just like you could have said built by enslaved Africans, developed by immigrants. He said nothing about American citizens at all in the ending of that speech at all. He gave all the credit to immigrants. And New York City does have the highest population of immigration. Definitely understand that it is a multicultural city. That's what makes New York what it is. Definitely love that, but let's not discredit people. Let's not discredit actual American citizens, okay? I don't know, y'all could chew me up in the comments, but I just pay attention to little stuff like that, and yeah, I just wasn't feeling that part, so And I did do my research on him, and I see that he was campaigning in clubs and churches. He was campaigning to Jews. Like, he was hitting every corner, Caribbeans, Latinos, Black Americans. He has been hitting every corner of campaigning. But let's be real. We know how campaigning works. You got to get people on your team. I'll continue to do more research on him because I don't know too much about him. And, yeah, I don't know. It's just something a little, I don't know. And just an FYI, Black Americans are not immigrants to America. Okay?
I never understood people like Mamdani who come from money, but yet try to foxtrot around like they're one of the average folk. They run for public office and automatically they decide to wage war on the capitalistic system that we have in America. The same system that made their family rich. I never quite got it. I mean, at this point, if these foreigners can't make their country America, they'll just come to our country and turn America into theirs, the country that they fled. And when are these people going to realize that nothing that politicians offer you free is actually free? Someone has to pay for it. And the problem with Marxism is you eventually run out of other people's money. And then you get a country like, I don't know, Venezuela. But look, New Yorkers, that utopia that these guys preach about, everything being free and just everybody dancing on rainbows, is actually hell on earth. And you'll find out sooner than later.
One more thing from my last video, so y'all can really get it. African American is the definition of Black Americans who were the descendants of slaves who were commonly taken from West Africa. African American is used to describe Black Americans who have roots directly tied to the transatlantic slave trade. If you can directly tie your ancestors to those plantations, you are African American. If you happen to be born in an African country and you happen to move to the U.S., you are not African American. Whatever your race was in Africa and you immigrate here, you are still that race. If you are from Nigeria and you are not Black, you are still your race. You would still technically be Nigerian American, just not a Black Nigerian American.
Let's have a conversation. I know it's been a while, but I wanted to get on here and have a conversation about, I believe his name is Zoran Mamdani. He's running for mayor in New York. The reason why I want to talk about this guy is because he is an East Indian born in Uganda. It has been discovered that he put on his college applications, one being in South Carolina, the University of South Carolina, I believe, he marked himself as being African American and Asian, while he adamantly says that he is not black. Technically, he didn't lie on the application when he said he's African American because he was born in Africa, in Uganda. However, he knew what he was doing. That box of African American is meant for blacks. It is meant, actually, it's really meant for the descendants of the enslaved. We're the ones who are supposed to be receiving those sort of benefits. However, people have come into this country, including black Africans, have come into this country and have reaped the benefits that were put in place really for my people who are the descendants of the enslaved here in the United States. I didn't used to really care too much about black Africans coming here and taking on the African American identity. However, I soon found out that they didn't want to pretty much associate with us, the black Americans, the foundational black Americans. This is why it's important that we stop using the term African American, because Elon Musk is African American. Let's just say that. I have to tell you a story about an African American story. I went to a beauty supply store. I heard that there was a black owned beauty supply here in my area, and I was excited about that. I go into this beauty supply store. There was a foundational black American woman working behind the counter, and I was excited to see her. I said, "Oh my goodness, are you the owner? Is this store black owned? Is this beauty supply store black owned?" This woman told me, the foundational black American woman said, "No, I'm not the owner. I just work here, but the store is culturally owned." I'm sorry. So is this store black owned? She answered again, "This store is culturally owned." So what that told me, because soon I found out that this store was actually owned by an African woman, it told me that she was given strict instruction to not say that it was black owned, to say that it was culturally owned. Meanwhile, you used all the benefits to get this business. You said that you were a black woman. When I went on her website, it said, it's a black woman owned business. So you want to go ahead and identify as one of us when you can reap the benefits. But outside of that, you're not one of us. This is why it's important. It's important to my foundational black American brothers and sisters for us to identify as such, identify as being native to this land, because most of us have never even placed a foot in Africa. We are not born there. Our mothers weren't born there. Our grandmothers, our grandfathers, great grandparents, none of them were born in Africa. We are from here, the United States of America. We are native to this land. Besides, a lot of foundational black Americans were already here before slavery. Let's make that point pretty clear. So when we finally get our reparations, which we are going to get reparations, we have to make sure that we identify as native to this land, because what's going to happen is people like Zoran Mamdani, however you say his name, are going to say, wait, I'm black too. I'm African American too, so I should get reparations. Let's identify, let's name ourselves. Don't allow other people to name us. Name ourselves as foundational black Americans and move that way. Because everybody else has been able to reap the benefits that our people fought for. And we're left with crumbs. So that's all I really have to say about that. People, it just doesn't surprise me anymore. I'll just say that. Thanks. Have a great one.
Zoran Mamdani got busted. So he claimed to be black or African American on his application to Columbia, right? And he explained it, and this is a portion from the New York Times article. In an interview on Thursday, Mr. Mamdani, 33, said he did not consider himself either black or African American, but rather an American who was born in Africa. He said his answers on the college application were an attempt to represent his complex background given the limited choices before him, not to gain an upper hand in the admissions process. And he was not accepted to Columbia, which, people are like, how bad were his test scores? Because his dad was a professor at the time, and he claimed to be black. So it's just what factors led to him not being picked. But anyway, he said most college applications don't have a box for Indian Ugandans, so I checked multiple boxes trying to capture the fullness of my background, said Mr. Mamdani, a state lawmaker from Queens. Now, when I first heard about the story, I started thinking about giving him the benefit of the doubt on this. And I'm like, well, he is from Uganda, right? Both his parents are Indian descent, but he just was in Uganda. So technically African American, except he also wasn't American, right? He wasn't American. I think he was still 7 years away from actually becoming an American citizen. Even though he was in the U.S. since he was 7. But his mom said he was raised to be Indian Ugandan. That's how he identifies. And of course, another issue is where he marked it was about ethnicity. And when you see black or African American together, you know what they're talking about. You know that they mean ethnicity, that they don't mean your country of origin. For example, if they're asking for the ethnicity of Elon Musk, do you think it would be appropriate for him to put black or African American, or should he check the white box? Now, Mamdani did also check the Asian box, and he did write somewhere that he was Ugandan. But there's all these other stuff, that you could say so about you, and break down where you're from. He didn't need to check the box that said black or African American. I already pointed this out in another video on one of my other profiles, but he wouldn't be the first Indian guy to pretend to be black to get ahead in college. But anyway, this is the article from the New York Times on the matter. Now, there's so many things wrong with this candidate policy-wise that this is just another drop in the bucket, right? But it just kind of adds to his slimy, performative, personality. And I've already seen Democrats claim that this isn't a big deal, and I'm not surprised that the people who tried to pretend Donald Trump saying black jobs was a huge scandal are just gonna brush past the fact that this guy put black or African American on the application, not the people who, defend Senator Pocahontas all day long.
Greetings, upstanders. Dr. O here, and folks are in a tizzy over New York mayoral candidate Zoran Mamdani having identified in 2009 as African, and one of the boxes that he checked is African American on his Columbia University application. And folks are losing their minds over this. You see people and make sure I get my quotations right. You have Eric Adams, who said, let's see, because some of these guys are just really going in. Eric Adams said his actions were an insult to every student who got into college the right way, and that the African-American identity is not a checkbox of convenience. Former Governor Cuomo said through his spokesperson that this should come as no surprise, as Mamdani, his proposals, his funding, and his background received absolutely no scrutiny. This issue must be fully investigated because if true, it could be fraud and just the tip of the iceberg. And the New York Post had to get in on it and going to some black New Yorkers and saying that he's just someone said in Harlem that he's just trying to get over, that he's a fraud, that he's a trickster. Some other person said you can look at him and see he's not black. I don't like him. I don't like him from the first time I heard him. You can look at him and see he's a trickster. Like, people are going in on this, right? And man, well, let me just start with this. The problem is not with Zoran Mamdani. The problem is with the idea of race itself and how we categorize race in America. And we've done a terrible job at that. As Mamdani says, he checked multiple boxes because, in his words, most college applications don't have a box for Indian Ugandans. So I checked multiple boxes trying to capture the fullness of my background. And this has been the problem with the census in the beginning. If y'all don't know, I'm reading from my book, Lies About Black People. The first census was taken in 1790, and they only had 3 categories: free whites, other free persons, and slaves. A category of free colored persons was added in 1820. Today, there are more than 63 racial categories to choose from. And now there are many ways to identify as white, as the idea of whiteness still reigns at the top of the food chain, as was the case in 1790 when free white reigned supreme. So the fact of the matter is, how should somebody like him identify? This is a man who was born in Uganda, right? And his parents are, of Asian origin. How should he identify on this census, which is always changing, but always seems to expand to be able to incorporate more whiteness? Another thing I'll read from my book is that between 2010 and 2020, there was a 316% increase in who identified as some form of white in the U.S. Census. And this boosted the overall number of white people in the United States, even though the overall number of people who checked white only declined, according to NPR. So how does this even work? Right? When you go to the census website and you look at the census race categories, a couple of years ago, they still had Negro as part of the definition of black. So it's always been complicated in terms of how we deal with race in America. Remember, and I'm going to come back to the census in a second. You remember this happened with Tyla, the singer from South Africa, who said that, back home she'd be identified as colored, and people went into an uproar. This is America. We don't use colored anymore. We don't say colored people. She was talking about how she'd be categorized in her country as colored, COLOURED, which is an actual racial category, because people who have mixed ancestry, black, Asian, and white. Like, it's a whole category, and that's what she was talking about. But people in America, not understanding the concept of race, try to make her feel like she was being disrespectful. And of course, I didn't watch the whole interview, but of course, she can learn about America's racial categories as well. And maybe they went into that conversation, but these are supposed to be opportunities for us to talk about this fake construct of race and what it has done. Let me ask you all, let's go to the census right now about the topic of race on their webpage. Do these define you if you identify as white? A person having origins in any of the original peoples of Europe, the Middle East, or North Africa. How far does original go? I know a lot of black people, a lot of black people of Asian ancestry who've been in Europe for decades, maybe even centuries. And they also say North Africa. But this is interesting because it says they define black or African Americans as a person having origins in any of the black racial groups of Africa. Last time I checked, North Africa was in Africa. Now, I ain't going to get to that whole conversation about how many people in North Africa don't look at themselves as Africans, and et cetera, et cetera. Whole other thing. We'll get into that. But if that's the case, what's up with y'all, my Trinis? Well, what's up with y'all, my Jamaicans, my Grenadians? What's up, Kendra? Like, what do y'all define as? If this is the case, there ain't no space for you on this census. Of the black racial groups of Africa. Now, of course, somebody like me, of course, I talk about the Africa diaspora, but that's not what it says here. It speaks as if it's the groups who are in Africa now. So what's that? American Indian or Alaska Native, a person having origins in any of the original people. Now, what I also the peoples of North and South America, including Central America, and who maintain tribal affiliation or community attachment. Does that describe all of y'all who define as an Alaska Native, American Indian? We still use an Indian? Many people are. Some people find it offensive. Asian, a person having origins in any of the original peoples of the Far East, like far away from us in the United States, Southeast Asia, or the Indian subcontinent, including, for example, Cambodia, China, India, Japan, Korea, Malaysia, Pakistan, the Philippine Islands, Thailand, and Vietnam. And then Native Hawaiian or other Pacific Islander, a person having origins in any of the original peoples of Hawaii, Guam, Samoa, or other Pacific Islands. So what is Mamdani supposed to be checking? As a man who was born of Asian parents, born in Uganda, came to the United States, and became a naturalized American citizen, what is he supposed to check in 2009 in different categories since 2009? So this isn't about him. This is about American ignorance as it relates to the social construct of race. And rather than use this as an opportunity to bring people together and have what Glenn Singleton calls a courageous conversation about race, we are using this to try to tear this man down, look at him as some type of fraud, and talk about he's trying to game the system. And people now comparing him to Elizabeth Warren and all of this. Look, Zoran Mamdani's father, Mahmoud Mamdani, is a prominent Africanist scholar. The child, the son, Zoran Mamdani, studied Africana studies. All right? Like, if anybody knows something about identity and how that works, it's him. And his middle name was given to him as Kwame. So unless y'all are going to get into a different conversation that some people want to have, that only black people born on the continent are considered African. So if you're white and you're born in South Africa, you ain't African. And if you're Asian and you're born in a country like Uganda, you ain't African, and all of that other type of stuff. Some people want to have that discussion. But others differentiate between black and African. And so this is an opportunity for us to be able to have this conversation that Mamdani's revelation can allow for us to have. But too many of us just want to jump in like Eric Adams. He's just politicking. Cuomo, who are you to speak about anything relating to the African American community with integrity? And y'all should know better. And so, but look, this is politics. I get it. Politics is dirty. He lost to Cuomo by 18 points with the African American community. It's going to be used to drive a deeper wedge with him and black people. Unfortunately, this is how the nature of politics. And for all of y'all African Americans out there, black folks in New York City talking about he's disrespecting us, he's a fraud. Come on, look at the man's policies. Look at what he's actually about. And try to do a deeper dive in understanding how messed up this concept of race is in this country. This is the country of the one-drop rule. This is the country of the brown paper bag test. This is the country of the blood quantum for the indigenous communities. We've done everything in this country to separate groups. Then we come up with new terms like BIPOC. All of these new things we come up while we expand whiteness in this country. And so I completely what has been your situation? If you're around my age, if you're younger than me, if you're older than me, what has your journey been as it relates to the census? What have you checked? What have you decided not to check? What did you leave blank? Did you find yourself represented in the minuscule categories that they've been added, that they've had on the census? This is an America issue. It's not a Mamdani issue. And so if we don't take the time to do that, and we just want to use this to further pick away at each other and tear each other down, this is what happened with Obama. He did the same thing when he was running. And they both got it. The whole terrorist, communist, all that other type of stuff. And now, Mamdani being called a racist and all of that. They threw in anything, Barack Hussein Obama. He's got 9/11 connections. This is happening all over again. And just like we squandered the opportunity to have a conversation about race because of Obama's unique background, we're squandering another opportunity right now to get real about race and how problematic it is. Do y'all even understand that a lot of the language you use to describe race it makes no sense? Like, remember a lot of hip hop songs, half black and Filipino, makes no sense. It makes no sense. There are black Filipino people. Some people argue that they are black, period, but you can't be half a nationality and half a race. Like, or half Asian, half black. Like, you can't do that. You can't be half Chinese, half black. Chinese is a nationality. Black is a race. So if anyone's trying to say I'm coming from you and your identity, this isn't about your identity. I'm talking about the language we use. It's like saying somebody is half Muslim and half British. Like, we conflate race with nationality. We conflate nationality with religion, to make up all of these identifiers that are comfortable for us. And most of them are wrong. But we're dealing with, and some can say all of them are wrong, because we're dealing with a social construct that has become very real. And that's what I talk about in my book, Lies About Black People. That's what Mamdani has given us an opportunity to do. You look at somebody like Naomi Osaka, right? Not half Japanese, half black, right? It's half, I believe her parentage on one side is from Haiti. So it's half Japanese, half Haitian. Like, just these little things. And once we want to have that conversation, then we can make some real progress in our society. But until then, people are just going to use opportunities like this to not have real conversations or try to tear somebody down. I believe that Mamdani is somebody who can rise to the occasion to deepen this conversation, and I hope there's an opportunity to do so. For the rest of us, I can say we should be ashamed, but that's how the race game goes in America. But when we know better, we should do better. So let me know your thoughts. What have been your thoughts as it relates to your racial journey? How have you handled the census? And how has it been if you come from another country being one race and then you come here and you're something else? Let's talk about that. I'd love to know your thoughts. Peace.
What the fuck Zoran would need to pick African American for? Was he trying to get benefits from that black people benefit from, or what's the purpose in that? And let me be clear, you and Zoran are nowhere near the same. Are you black? Cause he ain't. Sound a little. I ain't gonna call you stupid all right now, cause I don't know. Another thing that's gonna get Zoran, that vote, don't vote for nobody and leave your ballot blank, and telling somebody not to vote. I'd say Zoran is the AOC, cause she the same way. Y'all gonna fuck around and stretch y'all ass right into a Republican mayor. That's what's gonna happen. Now stretch on that. Weird ass.